Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic today is Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. And of course, we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee, Ms. KOlayinka. Ms. KOlayinka is a program director with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. And of course, with Ms. KOlayinka is Mr. J. Chris Meadows. Mr. Meadows is a member of the board of directors. As a matter of fact, Mr. Meadows is the chairman of the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. And of course, let me, Ms. KOlayinka and Mr. Meadows, welcome you to the show this morning and to tell you how delighted we are to have you to talk about what we consider to be a very, very important topic, and that is the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. But before we get into that, let's have the two of you, starting with you, Ms. KOlayinka, to talk about your background, your education, and to give us some information as to how you eventually became involved not only with the Boys Club, but how you became the program director for that organization. And of course, Mr. Chris Meadows will give us the same kind of general information about his background, and we'll then talk about the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. Let's start with you, Ms. KOlayinka.
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to work with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee, and I began my career in management, training trainers and training adults to work with computers and various different types of educational opportunities to further their careers. However, I have always had a community focus, a community base of working with youth in church and in various organizations throughout the city and throughout the state of Tennessee. I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee and became involved with the Boys and Girls Club through working with my community-based organizations. The Project Learn Director responsible for developing an educational curriculum for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee.
Very good. Mr. Meadows.
Yes, thank you too, Dr. Haney, for having us to speak about a club that is near and dear to both our hearts. I went to the University of Georgia, was transferred to Memphis, Tennessee, where I became involved with a group called the Phoenix Club, whose sole purpose was to raise money for the Boys Club at that point. And at a very early age, and I recommend your viewers to get involved civically as quickly as possible. From there, moved to Nashville 12 years ago and have been with the board of the Boys and Girls Club here in Middle Tennessee ever since. I'm privileged to serve as our chairman for the last 2 years, and we appreciate the opportunity to come and tell you about our programs.
You know, I think that the two of you have sort of hinted at what many of our viewers have probably asked in their own mind. That is the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee, the Boys Clubs of America, and etc. Let's talk about the sort of the history. Give us some information about the history of how these organizations came together and their various paths and etc. Let's start with you, Ms. KOlayinka, and to have you to give us some additional information in reference to that. And of course, Mr. Meadows can sort of bring together some of the things that you talked about or that he would like for us to also know.
The Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee was an effort by people in our community to aid the Nashville newsboys. They were out in the community delivering newspapers, and they needed to have social services and food, hot food and clothing, and that's the way it began. And it became an opportunity for boys to be nurtured and to offer educational opportunities. In 1989, it became the Boys and Girls Clubs to broaden our focus to both boys and girls, and we've continually moved in that direction toward enhancing young people and giving them character development and skills to allow them to be employable and strong leaders in our community.
Mr. Meadows.
The decision to merge with the Girls Club was one of the wisest we've made. Number one, we have attracted good female leadership such as Karen and several key board members that allow us to serve not only the disadvantaged boys of Middle Tennessee, but also the girls as well. We do reach out to 4,000 children between the ages of 6 and 18. And needless to say, the girls have a lot of the same issues that the boys do. the demographics are, our median income is probably below $15,000, typically single-parent households, and we are truly an oasis in these communities for